and welcome to a very special edition of Musicals101.com's I'll Say. I'm musical theater historian John Kenrick.
I am equity actor William McKay. Man, there's a whole different tone with our opening than the other ones we do.
We're here today to talk about the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and the impact that it had on theater, both as a community and as an art form.
Okay, so where were you the morning of 9/11?
I was in Jackson Heights, Queens, with my then partner. We were having breakfast at a local coffee shop. It came up on the television by the counter, and you saw that awful gash across the first tower. And someone sitting at the counter having coffee said, some jerk in a Cessna was drunk. And I went, look at the size of that thing. That is no Cessna. This is serious. And I had planned to meet someone down there to do some shopping in that area that morning, and we had postponed it till that afternoon. Obviously, it would not happen for quite a while after that. Where were you that morning?
I was. It's kind of interesting because both of the particular plays we're going to just talk about today, I have a connection to both. So I was an actor at the Actors Studio, but I was not there at that moment, and we're going to talk about that for a later piece today. But I was also a fireman at the time. Now, not a New York fireman. This is actually part of a sort of a costume. I was a Long Island fireman. So I was home, I was looking at the TV, and I had the typical reaction that firemen do. When we see something, we tend to kind of go, oh, with an interest, because we're supposed to, a big fire or an auto accident, we're not wishing that on people, but it's when we get to do what we want to do, which is to do what we've been trained to do. So I looked at that and I went, oh my God. At first I thought it was a small plane, just like the Empire State Building in the 40s or the 30s. Mm-hmm. But this quickly changed. And I was kind of desperate to get into the city. And I was a medic at the time, medic and fireman. So I don't know how that would have turned out had I gone. I just wasn't allowed to go because the line on the railroad stopped. I actually drove to the station. Stupid, because I had school, so I had assumed my school would still be on. All, of course, now we would think these are dumb things to do, but at the time, we all had to do what we had to do in terms of our lives, I was going to school.
No one comprehended the size of what was going on. That day was actually a primary day in New York City, and I had been campaigning for a friend of mine in Jackson Heights. So what did I do after watching the second tower go down from my rooftop with binoculars? I went off to vote, and they were still taking votes right into the afternoon. And it wasn't until an hour after I voted that they shut the polls down and said, no, we're going to do this again another day. Everyone tried to carry on. My partner drove out to his job on Long Island only to be told everything's canceled out here, Frank. And his hour-long drive home took him about 5 hours.
Yes, became a mess.
Because they shut the city down, and and all of Broadway stopped.
Correct.
All of Broadway stopped, and Broadway had not stopped in a long, long time. Broadway was not interrupted by war. Broadway was not interrupted by blizzards. And we've seen some doozies during our lifetime. Broadway has always kept going.
Great time to get tickets during a blizzard.
Oh yeah, always. If you're ever in New York and there's a blizzard and you're a tourist staying in the Times Square area, you will walk to the TKTS booth and you could probably get into Hamilton. And people have done it. It's amazing. But everything, the city just stopped.
So at the time, I was a fireman. I was a fireman on Long Island. And this was not an easy time for me because I was gay.
Yeah.
I was not, what we're going to say.
How does that work?
Correct. So I was not out because I couldn't be because of relationships I had within that house. So, but it didn't matter because most caught on. So it was not easy. Things were written about me on the walls.
Jesus.
There were things said all the time. Once I went to vent a window, and there was an opening in the floor, which I didn't see because I was looking at the window, and I actually fell, and I hung onto the floor. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
I went down. I was absolutely shocked, and I was hanging, and I knew I needed help, and in came 2 feet, and then they left. So I pulled myself up. I had done a pretty good job on my arms, and I hit my chin and my leg. I knew I had to go to the hospital, and I kind of went out, and I could hear them saying, "McKay is down, good," which was a little hard to hear, and also would therefore make my confidence in the fire department, meaning my confidence in feeling safe, challenging. I don't want to dwell too much more on this, but the best.
Sorry, though.
Thank you. The clearest statement was when I had left. I was teaching at JetBlue. One of my students was a fireman in the area, and I think that night I had him for 2 days in classes. He said, I ran into there was a board meeting or something like that, and some of the guys had a few happens, and he brought me up. He said, "Oh, my teacher today is McKay," and I went, "Oh, McKay, yeah, we were really hard on him. We drove him out. That was we were really hard on him, but he was a faggot." Right. Of course, now this would they pay a heavy price for that, but I didn't. So why am I bringing this all up? So when 9/11 happened, I had huge mixed feelings. My love of the fire department is huge. I can't even begin to express it. It's primal to some degree. That firehouse, no. Long Island, probably not. But the fire department in the city, yes, and firemen in general. And so 9/11 was horrendous for me, as it was for everyone, but firemen had a tough time. When a fireman is lost in a collapse or something of that nature, they will not leave the other firemen until they are found. And of course, over 300 were not found. So it was just, we'll leave it at that. It was very, very difficult for me. And as the time went on, didn't know what funerals to go to. There'd be double funerals, or triple sometimes, couldn't know which one to go to. Felt personally torn, would they look for me? I don't know. I think they would have, but I don't know. Understandable feelings that I had. Didn't matter. My devotion to the brotherhood as it is quite strong. So leading up to our topic, though, which is, so during all this time, there was a fireman, captain who had, in real life, who had lost his house. Now, house means every firehouse has 2 groups in it, the engine and the ladder. And he lost everybody. He wasn't there that day. He came in later. He was off. And he had to write the funerals. He had to write the eulogies and did not know how to do it. And of course, was dealing with his own grief. So he went to a writer and together they wrote the eulogies. Well, that woman was Ann Nelson. And she was so moved by the experience that, and by the way, she wrote a play. And in the play, she talks about going to vote, that she didn't know what to do. And she went off to vote. So if you were saying that, I was going, well, that's what she says in the play. But she wrote a play about it. And this was done quickly. This play opened, I think it was December 4th. It's in my notes, but I'm pretty sure it was December 4th of that year. So think of the timeline there. She writes a play. How on earth did it get done? And the play is called The Guys. A little hard reflection here. It also became a movie. This happens to be the picture of the movie. The play was done at the Flea Theater, and it starred Sigourney Weaver, who pretty much produced it with her husband, and Bill Murray. And then as time went on, various people would do the play. I'd heard about it, but I'd go into the city, I'm going to school. It was very, very difficult. But they quickly, if not right away, they invited firemen to see the show and their significant other, meaning a spouse or whatever, for free. So a friend got us tickets, and I was wired going in. But it's a play about a writer and the captain comes to her home, and they write the eulogies. And in the course of this, he gets to release some of his angst and grief and all that. And she goes through kind of a change herself. I saw the play, and of course, was wiped out. And typical, which I'm sure other actors go through this. When they see something, there might be a role that they want to play. I was obsessed. I was really lucky that day because it would have been Anthony LaPaglia. I got to see him in the movie, and I have a feeling knock it out of the park. I got an understudy. And because I got an understudy, I didn't get lost in the actor. I got lost in the actor's work because I wasn't paying attention. I always had Susan Sarandon, who was fabulous in the part.
No surprise.
Just great. And I just wanted to do this. And I kind of became obsessed. It was a major year for my school. It was my third year, so I had to do a thesis. Couldn't do that. I already committed to something else, a play that you had told me to do, which was Safe Sex, Untidy Endings. But when I graduated, I did start to work on doing the play. And in fact, by working on it, I got into the actor's studio. You have to audition with pieces. First time I didn't get in, second time I did, which is a big deal. It's a little hard to get in. And I have done the guys in many locations, including Sag Harbor Theater, which is a big deal, New York City, Reno. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be possibly talking to the actress I did that with. I did it with Mila Pitt on most of the time in New York City and Long Island. It was a huge, huge, huge release for me, and very, very emotional, cathartic. I know we have a clip, so how about we run that, and then I'll say a little something after.
Absolutely. Here's a clip of Bill and Who's With You.
Oh, okay. Yes, this is what we did is we did this for you. So it's not the real play. It's simply being done in a living room. It's this behind me. So it's just a small section. And there was lots of stuff going on that day. So by the time I did it, I was a little tired. And I isn't quite, my voice isn't, the tone isn't the way I do it. Shut up, Bill. Do it. Anyway, yeah. Heather Monahan is the actress. Oh, and he loved New York. All the nooks and crannies. These guys, they see the city from the outside and the inside and from underground and all the hidden places. I remember Bill telling me one day, Nick, I just got this great book, A Walking Tour of Flatbush Avenue.
Flatbush Avenue?
Yes. But you need guys like that, especially downtown with all these crazy streets. Nowadays, you get a printout when a call comes in, but the person still could have given you a bad set of directions, or it's the wrong building on the wrong street, or we have you're ending up at the wrong entrance or something like that. It's
never thought of that.
That day I still don't know what happened. I can't find anybody that saw the company. We know that the guys got off the apparatus, and the officer said to the driver, we're going to Tower 1. So they're going down West Street in full gear around the time the second plane hit. But we don't know. Did they peel off and go to Tower 2? I don't know. And I don't know where to look for them.
Tell me, what else did Bill love?
I don't know.
Any sports? Music?
Please.
He said he hung out in the kitchen. Did he like to cook?
No, Bill wasn't exactly a cook. See, all the guys take turns making meals. So, sometimes it can be okay. But for the most part, it's pretty rank. I like to call it valiant attempts and dismal failures.
Yeah?
Yes. See, each guy has his own specialty that they, is when it's their turn to cook, So we're talking a lot of undercooked chicken and nasty rice-a-roni. But Bill, he was pretty good. He would like to sit there and he would actually always try it. And he could come up with some real zingers.
So he was more of a critic.
Yeah, all right. Yes, he was the firehouse critic. Firehouse food critic, yes. And he could really zap them, too. But he was never mean. He was never mean.
Okay, yeah, this is good. This works. Nick, you want to give people something they recognize, not just a plaster saint. This is good. Wait a minute.
But, I don't know. I feel bad. I'm not giving you anything to work with, and this has gone on so long, and you have other things to be doing, I'm sure.
No, just wait. Here. Try this. Starts here, and then jumps to here.
You did all this?
And if you could, read it out loud so I can hear it. Just come on. Just do it.
All right. I'm Nick Flanagan, captain of Ladder Company 60. I've worked with Bill Doherty for a long time, and I want to give my condolences to all of Bill's family here with us today. Okay. We've been hearing a lot about heroes, and Bill was one of them. He gave his life for others, and that is a noble thing. But Bill was a quiet hero, never one to show off, never blustered. He was a firefighter for 16 years, and he was a good one. He had the most important quality for a firefighter. He was absolutely dependable. That's right. Yep. Dependable. Over time, we realized how important he was for the newer guys at the firehouse. Sometimes it could be hard for the experienced men to show the younger ones the drills year after year. But Bill was always looking out for the new guys, showing them the ropes. And he did it in that quiet way of his, never made them feel small. My men, he called them, my men. Yeah, you got it. I mean, yeah, that you got it. This is him.
They're your words.
Yeah, but
I just put them in order.
I don't know, but you got the craft. You know how to put it. I don't. All right. He was like an older brother to them, looking out for them. They appreciated it, and I appreciated it. You got to have a guy like Bill to build a strong team. They may not say much, but they hold things together. Let's see. Oh. If Bill hadn't been a fireman, he could have been a food critic. He used to spend a lot of time in the kitchen talking to the guys and evaluating the cuisine. When Bill tried out a questionable dish, he could come up with some real zingers. The restaurants of New York are lucky he went into another line of work. Yeah, the guys are going to like that. What did Bill love? He loved his family, and he loved this city. And on September 11th, he was the senior man. The younger men could look to someone who was steady and professional to show them the way. We know that Bill and other firefighters of New York saved thousands of lives that day. And that means that there are thousands of people and their family members who are able to go on because of them. We can only thank them and ask for God's kindest blessings on those they left behind. All right.
It works.
Yes. No, I mean, you got it. You really did. And I can hold this and get up and use it and say what has to be said. This is great. Hey, are you all right?
The guys.
Okay. What I would like to say is that it has been an honor to do the part. And even now, we're 20 years out, And I only kind of, unless I'm doing the part, I don't, believe me, I don't spend my whole life obsessing. But at 9/11 time, September, late August into about now, there's lots of stuff that's aired. Every year there's something new. And I've watched it all. And there's two things I want to say. One is an actor thing. For this part, what's to come out right? I had to learn how to cry. And I don't mean how to cry. I had to cry like a guy. What the hell does that mean? I really studied how men cry. And it was so easy because everybody's being interviewed. And we're talking, guys or regular guys, but a lot. And they're all different. And women cry a certain way, and they'll sometimes cry like men. That's not what I'm getting at. But there is a way that men cry. And I feel like I have a master's degree in it. And so spent a lot of time studying to hopefully get this right. But the other thing I wanted to say is, I'm always doing the research on everything. And even this year, the Pfeiffer brothers, that is a major high up fireman, and his brother were in Tower 1. And he sent his brother up, as he would do. That's normal. And his brother did not come out alive. He did. The other Pfeiffer survived. And I've been following this for years. We get little steps, and there's many other people with this on these documentaries I watch. But this one, just this week, I learned that he went home the second day. He went home the second day and had to tell his parents, and how awful that was. A fireman telling your parents that the brother had. Can you just imagine? And this went on all the time. All these poor guys. Sometimes guys were found twice. But they did not find his brother until Super Bowl Sunday. And they did a little interview of him, and they said he was on duty that day, and they called him to the site. He kind of knew. That's usually what would happen. If you were called to the site and you were fired, that probably meant somebody was found, and probably somebody you might know. And what would happen is the body would be kept where it was, and then they would take him out, or her, but no, it's him, and they'd be covered with a flag. There was, from what I could see, there wasn't much, but there would be the turnout gear, which would have the name on it, which is how they knew who this was. And they would carry it, and everyone would salute. That was brought to the ambulance. And they put his brother in the ambulance, and he said he climbed into the ambulance, and they closed the doors. Remember, I said I was an EMT, so I know what that ambulance smells like and feels like. And he sat there, and he's looking at this flag, which is not shaped like a body. Rest. Wow. Still kind of hits. Of course. And so this is the one thing I just want to say. I wrote this down so I would not forget to say this. And this is what I want to say about this play. And that is, I love the part. I mean, I love to do this part. I'm beginning to age out. It's beginning to irk at me, but that's the way it is. I love the part. But the reason I love the part is I love the part. I get to commemorate the event so that people are reminded. I get to educate the audience. Oh, I remember doing it in Reno. These were not New Yorkers. And one of them said, I didn't want to come to this. I mean, seriously, why would I come to this? And she said, seriously, it was just amazing. It's not very long. It's a 95-minute play. Yes, it meets my own needs. But most importantly to me, I want to honor the firefighters, my brothers. And maybe just finally, maybe even for the 90 minutes, I get accepted. And that means the world to me. Okay. All I want to say.
All right.
It's a great play.
In the days after 9/11, one of my most vivid memories, what day of the week was it? It was
Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday.
See, have it down.
Broadway took 2 days off. And on Thursday night, Broadway was reopening. My then partner and I, we went to Times Square. We got tickets on TKTS to catch something, to be supportive of the industry. And we bumped into a friend of ours who was in the cast of a new show that was opening the following week, Urinetown. And we were just chatting. Now, keep in mind, those days after 9/11, all U.S. airspace was cleared. There was no commercial air traffic in New York.
It's funny. I worked for an airline for the last 16 years.
Yeah.
A lot of these strange little parallels go on.
It was so silent in the skies. And at 5 or 6 p.m. in the afternoon, this would have been, an F-19 fighter came in low over Times Square and just sort of let us know that it was there. And the three of us stood there watching and listening because it was this huge crack of sound. And we just said, did you ever think in your life you would live to feel good about an F-19 in Times Square?
But at the same time, you're reminded of the plane.
Yeah.
The airline coming in.
It was a surreal time. Initially, New York, let me tell you something about the theater business. According to the Theater League, 60% of theater goers at this point are tourists. It's a tourist-based industry now. And that meant that New York City's theaters were empty because tourists could not get in and out of New York initially, and then didn't want to get in and out of New York for a while.
Because we were all afraid.
Right.
Well, I'm from Long Island, but we weren't sure what else is going to be a target.
Right.
Is it going to be the theater? The theater is a target.
So what the theater community did was they called everyone in one afternoon. They gathered around the TKTS booth, and every star who was working in a show or who lived in New York City took part in a new I Love New York commercial. Now, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, there was this long tradition of I Love New York commercial to encourage New York tourism. Here they were using it to urge people back into the theaters.
These little town blues are melting away. We'll make a brand new start of it in old New York. If we can make it there, we'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York.
Come to New York and let's go on with the show.
It was my buddy Nathan Lane, bless his heart.
Tell about the Elaine Stritch story.
Oh, everyone was told, look, there are 1 or 2 costumes that are white, so whatever you do, do not wear white to the taping. What did Elaine Stritch do? She showed up at the last minute, pulling up in a cab, dressed all in white, and she said, I'm just going to stand by my friend Nathan Lane. And she knew that because Nathan was starring in the biggest show on Broadway that year, The Producers, that he would be in the front row. So sure enough, she's on one side of him. The girl who won the Tony Award playing Ulla was also in a white dress on the other side of him. There's no way to miss them as they're doing the New York, New York pose. That was hilarious. And it was pure Stritch, because Stritch always knew how to get into a spotlight. Now, the amazing thing is that not only, did theater recover, but eventually theater began to find ways to address the 9/11 experience.
Yes.
Now, there was The Guys, but...
Which was by the way, it's a somber show, but it's also, it has its funny moments.
Now, before you go, I remember that when I went back to my favorite piano bar for the first time, which was that weekend.
Which was what, by the way?
That would have been the Monster back then. It was a great place to go to. It's still around. I haven't been there in a while because of COVID. But the pianist was a friend of mine, and he was playing, and he looked up and said, well, John, I don't think we're going to ever live to see a 9/11 musical. Boy, was he wrong, because there is, and you know some of the people involved.
So, as I hinted at in the beginning, or not hinted at, besides being a fireman on the morning of 9/11, I was also a student at the Actors Studio Drama School, which was for an MFA in acting, directing, or writing. In my case, it was for acting. And the one little story I'd like to say is on Mondays, we would tape inside the Actors Studio every other Monday. And the night before, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank, who started moonlighting? Bruce Willis. The night before was Bruce Willis. And sometimes these things go long, and his did, if the actor talks a lot. So it probably would. It could have. Well, so do you. So it went really late. And I remember we got out really late. Remember, I live on Long Island, and I have to come back in the next day. I have to take the Long Railroad. I don't know if you know that. I have to subway, Long Island Railroad, drive home, whole big long thing. So it was around 11 o'clock. So, I mean, I was really done. And I turned, and we were right under. Oh, my school. My school was on 12th Street, which is not under the World Trade Tower, but pretty close. And I remember looking up because at that night, this is the night before, and all these lights were on in the whole building. Not the whole building, pretty much all of them. And I kept saying, how many cleaning people are there? How many people work this late? And I don't know why it stuck out, but it did. Who knows why? The next day, obviously, didn't make it in. A few weeks later, we all had to do theses that year. We would do a play, a short play. Again, John is the person who suggested the play I did, and I got to do it. But the director of the program, Jack Tempson, turned to all of us and said, I want you to do an essay paper and tell us on, do you think any kind of theater will be able to come out of this, any kind of art. Now, I was older than most of them, so my brain went, well, Titanic and Schindler's List, and I could keep going and going and going. But others were younger. I don't remember what they all said. I just remember one other person. But my essay or my paper, I keep saying essay, my paper said yes. Okay, I didn't know that. I just assumed. And of course, I'm sure there's going to be many things to come. It's not been a lot so far, but that things will come. And I remember another person I talked to, which was, I'm missing the thing, is Irene Sankoff. She was in my class. And we were doing the first thesis that year, the first play I was in, hers. I had the first line, as a matter of fact, and we were up soon. And I remember her saying, I think something will come out of this. Mm-hmm. And I think it's ironic that both of us said yes. I'm sure there's other classmates who said yes, although my recollection is a lot of them said, no, this is too personal. It's understandable they would feel that way. So that's not putting them down whatsoever. They lived it. I wasn't there that day. They were. Okay. They were watching the bodies fall in the building fall. But she said yes, and I said yes. The reason I probably know is we probably talked about it. Jack Tempson was the guy. And so years later, Miss Irene Sankoff and her husband, they were at school together. Her husband was there in the International Building because they're from Canada.
And his name? Is
David Hine. And they were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. But 1 month after the towers came down, they married. And I would say we were friends. They were at my house at least once, if not twice. You get the idea. We were friends. And we did talk about this, but not often because we had our own stuff to do. Well, years later, I heard they did a play called The Lesbian. My Wiccan mother put it up. My mother's lesbian Jewish Wiccan wedding, which is absolutely delightful. Don't be scared by it.
This is a musical.
This is a musical, kind of off-Broadway kind of feel to it. It didn't go to Broadway, but it played, I'm not sure all over the world. I think it did. But they did very, very well with it. It, went all over. It did so well. They are the composers and the book writer, by the way. And I think occasionally she might have been in it. I'm not sure if he was. They did so well that they were able to stop working.
Nice.
And to do this. And then, of course, they began to work on another project. And 10 years later, they went to a convention, a meeting, a reunion. And the reunion was of all the, I should lead up differently. All the planes were in the air on 9/11, and they all had to land.
Go somewhere. Yep.
They all had to land wherever they were.
And they could not come to New York.
And they couldn't go anywhere. They had to go the closest airport, and there were a bunch heading to New York and Boston, coming over. Usually the flight pattern would often be over Iceland and Greenland, and then you come down. And so oh my God, what's the name of the city? We do oh my God. It'll come to us. This is terrible because we should know this.
In this little town in Newfoundland.
It's in Newfoundland with the emphasis on the land.
Yes, Newfoundland.
And this is the first line of the show.
This used to be one of the largest and busiest airports on Earth, because this is where many flights going to and from Europe had to stop to refuel. To make the jump. And instead, they all wound up landing in
Isn't this awful?
They wound up landing in Newfoundland. And this became the inspiration
Gander.
for Gander. Thank you. Became the inspiration for Sankoff and Hine to write "Come From Away,"
Now,
a musical about
right,
that.
a musical about airplanes landing in an airport. And then when I heard about this, I said, "Oh, please!" Not that I didn't trust them, but I mean, what? How are you going to do a musical about this? So what they did was they, like a chorus line, they went to this reunion of sorts, and they got interested, and it spurred them. They got an $18,000 grant, or whatever it is, the denomination that comes from Canada, and they spent several weeks in the area and around the world interviewing all of these people, pilots, passengers, and the town. And like a chorus line, they put this all together and came up with this musical.
Let's take a look at a small bit.
I cannot believe I couldn't remember this city. I'm so sorry to the people of Newfoundland.
Sorry, Gander, but here we are.
On the northeast tip of North America is a town called Gander.
September 11th, 2001.
Over 200 planes getting diverted.
Even with all the hotels in town, we've got no room.
With thousands of passengers arriving at any minute, the town is asking for help with, well, anything you can do.
We barely know where we are.
Just freaking out. I wish I was home.
Thank you for shopping at Walmart. Would you like to come back to my house for a shower? Hello?
Yes, it's me.
Dad, I'm okay.
We honor what was lost, but we also commemorate what we found.
This show comes to, this is the first real Broadway show on the topic, and a musical. I mean, are you kidding? That's probably not going to work. And that's kind of what I thought. But it had done well in Canada and in Seattle. And as it toured and they developed it and worked on it, and it came. And of course, I made sure I had tickets. I think I saw it just a few days before it opened. And it's personal for me, of course. I actually was sitting next to people from Gander because they were all coming in, but for this big event. And
To take a gander at it. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that's very funny.
Go ahead. Hit me.
No, I'm not. Definitely not going to. So I almost want to say to you first. You saw it also.
Yes.
So what were your impressions? So let's get you talking, and then I'll say what I want to say.
I went going, oh God, how is this going to work? And within 10 minutes, I was totally charmed. I was totally at that show.
So proud of you. I'm talking to you, David and Irene.
It is such a surprise, this show. You may think, oh no, the last thing I want to see is a musical about what happened on 9/11. This is a show about the humanity that came out on that god-awful day. And it is a show that does what I believe musicals should do. It incites joy. It leaves you feeling younger and lighter than when you walked into the theater at the start of it all. And it so energizes you to go out and do something decent to another human being. And it not only has been a huge hit in New York, it was also a huge hit in London, where it received the Olivier, their Tony, for Best Musical. And now the clips that we just showed you were for the Apple TV streaming version, which has the the most recent Broadway cast.
So what we've got in this is we have 12 people who are playing, well, technically thousands of people. And you can say, well, how's that going to work? And it's done. I'm only going to do this one criticism now, is occasionally while you're watching it, one character is the passenger and you're already used to him as a passenger, but then all of a sudden he's the Canadian, and then he's a different passenger, and you're going, wait, what's happening here? So it can be confusing. Not a lot. It only happens a little. It's won the Tony for direction, and it won it correctly so. But there are 25 people. Two of my favorites are Kevin and Kevin, who are two gay guys who are kind of splitting up, and the way they wrote it is kind of hits home. But in their honor, both John and I are going to dress in their costumes, since I did for the guys. We're going to do, at one point, one of them gets into this outfit, and his lover says, "You look like a gay lumberjack."
Like a gay lumberjack.
Yep. Also, Irene and David, I got this in Disney just for you. Look at this. It's a lumberjack.
Yeah, we got a gay lumberjack. Yeah.
But one of my favorite characters, and I don't like singling out anybody, there's two that stand out. One is, the one is Nick, and the only reason I'm particularly pointing out Nick is an older gentleman from England. At one point, he's also a Canadian. And, if you're looking to, bring somebody in on the deal, I would probably be perfect. We can work on the accents. Hey, okay, just what he is. He plays an older man who meets another woman and they fall in love. And what happens with that?
Listen, if you cast him, I promise I'll teach him how to make poutine. Okay, and that'll get any Canadian's heart. I'll teach him how to make poutine.
If you're thinking about looking, But and by the way, who's doing it now? I mean, please.
Jim Walton,
who was in
the original Merrily We Roll Along.
So
so many shows in New York.
It might be a while before I'm even thought of if this show runs forever. But one of my favorite characters is Beverly. Hold on, and the reason I'm holding something up, she wrote a book too, which is Beverly Bass. This is a children's book. Pretty much based on the musical because of this.
Tell them who Beverly is.
She is one of the pilots who was told to land. She is I have to say this because it's the point. She is a female pilot. She's one of the first female pilots, if not the first, for American Airlines. And remember, I was working, when I saw this, I was working for an airline at the time. I was a supervisor of in-flight. And she has this song called, oh my God, is it terrible? Me in the Sky, which is pretty much one of the few solos. And she knocks it out of the park. And this is by Beverly, Jen Colella. She got a Tony nomination for it, well deserved. And
she does play the part in the Apple TV cast.
Yeah, so we did get to, yes, they kept her, not they kept her, she was able to stay. Just wonderful about being a pilot. And the reason I bring this one up, first I loved it. Okay, so I loved it and her in it. But when one day I was the first few years of my working at my airline, I was on the planes, and one day the cockpit, no, it's the flight crew was all female, and the in-flight were males. And I was the lead flight attendant. We called it number one. I'm standing there at the door, and on comes the passengers, and she looks at me, and she assumes I'm the pilot. And she makes some little comment to me and says, "Oh, thank God, because, I want a male pilot, and I don't want any of those, flight attendants who are good times. I hope what we dealt with."
Go ahead.
So when the plane took off and I was not in the cockpit and we were doing the service, she really hadn't paid attention. Suddenly I'm serving her drinks, and the look she gave me was phenomenally amusing. Oh, I was so happy because I never said a word that would get me in trouble. I was respectful. But another time, I got to say female again, there's a point. A female pilot was coming on the plane. She was so happy because she had just gone from first officer to pilot. And when that happens, you have to be first officer for many, many years and fly many, many hours. And then you possibly, if you wish, become a pilot, which means you also change your seniority. You go back to the bottom and you work your way up. She didn't care. She was so excited. It was her first flight as a pilot. Beautiful. She was so excited. She beautifully made up. She looked really young, almost frighteningly so. And I said, "Did you see Come From Away?" And she said, "No, but I've been told." And I said, all of us were saying to her, "You and Beverly, you should go see this play as a result." So what I want to say is the musical is wonderful. It is wonderful. I am so proud of them. It is a huge hit. It was nominated for many Tonys that year. Unfortunately for them, it was the year of Dear Evan Hansen, which, you know, and that's just the way it goes. It did get Best Director. In England, it did get the Best Musical Award. So they've gotten they've gotten surprises, but trust me, they're doing quite well. So this is a monumental. I want to hold up the poster. I hope the light doesn't do this. They sent me the poster because I begged, and it's signed by everybody, including them. I am just so proud. I am so proud. Well, with the guys, I would say to you, you know, it's a little different evening. You have to go and prepare to sit, and it's a little tougher sit. It's still amazing. Go see the guys. Please, producers, do this show more often. I'm ready on Long Island. But come from away, run. Go see it. You're going to love it. You could see it on TV. You are not going to be disappointed.
If you have not seen Come From Away, catch it on Apple TV. If you are in the New York area and you have not seen it on stage, it is one of the shows that shows up regularly at TKTS, sometimes on TDF. By all means, treat yourself to this really heartwarming show. This is a feel-good show.
It just opened again, and now, of course, it depends on when you see this, but it just reopened a couple of nights ago. And I didn't realize you could be seeing this months from now, if not years. But each of these shows are reopening up, and it had its turn this week, and I'm so excited for it.
It's interesting that here we are talking about the reopening of Broadway after 9/11 in the same week when Broadway is reopening. You know, in the wake of the COVID shutdown. I was on the phone with a reporter from the New York Observer being interviewed. Do you think Governor Cuomo should shut down the theaters? And I was saying to him, it is the only responsible call that the governor could make right now. It was a mistake in 1918 to keep the theaters open. That needs to be done.
In when?
In 1918, when they had the flu pandemic.
Oh, okay.
And while I was on the phone, the reporter said, wait a second. We just got this over the wire service. Cuomo is shutting the theaters down effective immediately.
It's horrible. It was just like, what? But we all thought it was just for 2 weeks.
And we thought it was going to be a matter of weeks, maybe a month or two. And you
actors left some of their food in the thing. They said, oh, we'll be back. Personal items. They did not come back. I can only imagine what the food looks like. I don't mean they left it on their desk, but it was in the refrigerator. They didn't come back because you weren't allowed to come back into the building.
Rest assured, though.
For a year and a half.
But in the year and a half, there were there were people who had the job of going in and taking care of all of that. All those fridges were cleaned out.
Okay.
The theaters were maintained, the sets were maintained, the dressing rooms have been maintained, everything's been cleaned and pressed and cared for. And this week, in a beautiful moment, here's something that you might enjoy seeing. It was online. Before the first reopening performance of Wicked, of all people, Kristen Chenoweth showed up on stage, and the audience got a wonderful surprise.
Oh my gosh! Okay, so I have to say it as I hold onto the ladder. There's no place like home.
How wonderful to see her back, in her haunt. A few minutes later, the new Glinda came floating in her bubble. And in case you don't remember or haven't seen Wicked, her first line is, "It's good to see me, isn't it?" And the audience proceeds to lose its collective mind.
All the opening nights were like this. They're just standing ovations all the time. People were very, very excited.
I have a little bone to pick, though. Bill and I, the next day, the day after shows reopened, went to the TKTS booth only to find out none of the musicals, none, were allowing any tickets to go to TKTS.
And this was on?
This was on the Wednesday after the Tuesday reopening of major shows.
Which was?
Hamilton, right. Lion King, Chicago, etc. There were others. And what it came down to is this. We talked to someone at the TKTS booth, one of the attendants, who said, look, they're not going to release any tickets here because they don't want people to know they're not sold out. They are, and I found this out through other friends in the business, they are giving tickets away through charitable organizations rather than admitting that they can't sell out at full price. So if you are not one of those who can afford a $300 premium ticket to a show or a $180 full price ticket, or you're not, in a position to know someone or be connected to an organization that can get you a comp, you're not welcome on Broadway right now. Neither are we. We're just, limited income former theater pros who cannot get into a Broadway show right now. So
We're current theater pros.
Yeah,
You're a writer, I'm an actor.
Yeah, but you know what? We're not welcome yet. So when Broadway feels like welcoming us, hopefully we'll be available. I'm not for the next couple of months. I'm just totally booked every night with talks, other things. So I'm really sorry, Broadway, but I guess I won't be seeing you until sometime in 2022. And here's hoping that we do see theater stay open, see theater continue to thrive. One other good bit of Wicked news. The first ever major production of Wicked to not use the original set and costume designs opened last week in Hamburg, Germany. Here are just 3 quick shots that have been shown online. This is Elphaba.
This is not the set design that we have in New York.
So not at all what you would see in New York.
Interpreting it their way.
So as you can see, the costume is very different. Here is what One Short Day in the Emerald City looks like. Very, very different presentation. And here is Elphaba and Glinda in the moment when Elphaba says, "Who killed my sister?" And Glinda says, "Oh, don't say killed. Killed is such an awful word." And Elphaba says, "Well, what word would you prefer?" And Glinda says, "Oh, regime change." This show is as current as ever. It is as potent as ever. And like any truly well-written musical, it will continue to thrive in multiple stagings with multiple, productions. It's great to see Wicked alive, well, and still exciting audiences, not just here, but all around the world. And the movie version is yet to come.
Before we sign off, because the topic is changes, those 2 plays, and of course the Guys was not on Broadway,
right?
I think the only thing, we were trying to find something that might get mentioned, but what changes happened in theater?
Well, one thing is you now have
I know the answer to this, but I want you to do it.
You now have to have your bag inspected when you walk in and out of the theater. You have to. I'm perfectly fine with that.
I've gotten so used to it.
And some
long lines.
Now you have to line up and wait to get into.
Which is very British, right? Because in Britain they do that. They queue up. We even try to use the word queue now, which I don't think people quite get.
We never did that in New York.
We just went in.
You just went into the theater. There was none of this. And it worked beautifully, but now everyone's in a very different.
Which could be complicated if there's 3 theaters next to each other. So one could be wrapping around Schubert Alley, but that's not the show you're even going into.
Right.
And so it gets confusing. So you'll walk up and you'll go to people, "What show are you online for?"
Yeah.
Because you need to figure out what show you're going on to. I know somebody that had tickets for. Oh no! They saw the wrong show.
Oh,
they went into the wrong theater because the person didn't check the darn ticket.
You are kidding me.
Yeah, and then it got fixed because they got their seat.
Oy
which of course that shouldn't happen. They have to check the ticket. But yeah, so there's lines now, and you have to check your bags. I would suspect this has added to the price of tickets because we have to pay those people to do the extra security. I don't really think there's other changes.
So far, no. There's only been one case of theatrical terrorism in the world that took place in Russia some years ago.
Right.
And that was terrorist related, but that was one horrible incident. So far, knock on every form of wood that's handy, nothing has happened in the theaters in New York, and God willing, it never does.
I'm looking. I wasn't smiling, but I'm looking at you and I, and we're like in the musical Come From Away. There's 2 gay guys.
It looks like we're 2 gay lumberjacks.
And Kevin too, and here we are dressed just like them. Of course, I once again really should be dressed like the older man, Nick. By the way, the character I play in from the Guys is called Nick. Let's have this thing about Nicks. Okay, I'll shut up now.
No. All right. I can't get over how we both look in red flannel. Okay.
I think we look hot. Thank you very much.
I
It's
think
a very
we
nice
look
color.
just great.
I would probably have a different kind of shirt that would be more revealing of my amazing chest.
No, well, the fireman shirt is always a good
Yes.
good frame. All right, everyone, thank you for tuning in. I hope that we brought both some solemnity and a little joy to the topic today.
Irene and David, I am so proud of you. I am so proud. You don't need that from me because what the hell am I? But, and I know our classes too. Cohort 6 of the Actors Studio, we bow down and join.
Thank you all for, you could have been doing anything during this past hour that we've been chatting. But you spent this time with us. Thank you so much.
That's very Kristen Chenoweth. Have you heard her do that?
Oh, does she do that?
Yes,
too?
she does it at the end of her concert. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to be with me.
But that's something a lot of people have said. I
remember that.
I heard Liberace say that years ago, and to me it says a lot. So thank you for sharing this time with us, sharing some memories, and hopefully, if you are of a younger generation, maybe learning something of this history of this thing you've heard about, 9/11.
Never forget.
For those of us who lived it, we never will. If you enjoyed what you saw here today, be sure to hit like, hit subscribe, so you can find out about our other live streams in the future. And hope to see you again here on YouTube. In the meantime, keep loving musicals. Stay well, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.